Hey woodworkers. Okay, so I'm preparing to get my substrate ready to apply veneer to. A couple things I've done. I've transferred, so I made a center mark and left it on the back. When I sanded off these surfaces, that center point remained. I was able to pull my center. The other thing I was able to do is mark the edges orientation. So this is always right. If I'm reading it this way, I know that this is facing up. That's just my system. So there's a couple things I want to do. I want to trim off as much as I can of the excess material on these points here, and it's a little bit counterintuitive to what you've probably heard me say, talking about leaving your substrate larger than the veneer, and then when the veneer goes down, they can trim everything off, which is a good system, the right system for rectilinear shapes. When we have a funky angle here, curves, all that, I need to get this stuff pretty close to final dimension, not final dimension, but awfully close. And then when I veneer it, life just becomes a little bit easier for me. So the first thing I want to do, I want to trim off these horns on both the front and the back. And there's really no good way to do this. This is an option that might look tempting. I could set this on the table saw. I've got a straight edge here. I could start pulling this or pushing this through the saw, but man, I really hate how much surface area there is on this edge, but how little in comparison there is over there. And then, in addition to that, there's still no guarantees that these edges are parallel, even if I was comfortable doing that, which I'm not. I think you're asking for trouble as this thing is going through to come away from the saw mid-cut, and that's a recipe for disaster. So I can't flip this around, rest these edges, or these ends, up against the fence, because those are not a parallel edge to the solid back. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to leave this in this orientation, and I'm going to use this little jig to help guide or direct this cut. That's great. Don't need more than that. I need to set up this jig so this edge here, where it locks to the back side of the horn, is far enough away that I could put this against this little jig and then still be able to cut without having this blade, the spinning blade, engaged anywhere in this work. So that is probably where I'm going to leave you. Alright, so this now gets clamped to the fence, obviously, and then all I need to do is set up the outside of the blade to this edge. So this seems to be a pretty straight line. I always kind of sneak up on these things, so I'm going to leave this here, give it a test cut, see how it looks, and if I'm happy, then I'll do the next one. So a couple of pretty small adjustments. See if I can show you where it ended up with. Yeah, you can kind of make that out, I think. That is no better at all, is it? So I have a little bit of a lip here, so I'm just going to take this off, but I'll do it off camera. I don't want to waste a bunch of time here. I do want to show you the next step for getting this piece prepared. Okay, so this is still top. So with the center line, I was able to go off of my full-size drawing. I'm able to mark exactly where the outside edge needs to terminate. And so I still have roughly a ½ inch here, like 5/8, which is what I want. I want to have enough extra here to deal with for doing this next step, which is going to be trimming it down close. So I need to use, if you remember, a waste piece. So this outside edge is perfectly sanded and shaped that aligns to my drawing, so that's what I want to use as my template now for drawing this next line. I've also measured an equal distance from the back edge here, where this end piece meets. So here to here, here to here, these are the same dimensions on both edge, and so I've made a little reference mark. Now, with that, I have the outside shape drawn perfectly for what it is I need to do. I hope that was still in. Yeah, good. Okay. So now that I have that drawn out, that's going to be a huge time saver for me after I get the veneer down. What I'm trying to avoid is once the veneer goes down, I definitely want to minimize the number of cuts that I make anywhere on this environment, including these horns that I was working on initially. Because anytime that I introduce a cut here, it's just an opportunity for some tearing out of that veneer to happen. I just want to avoid that. Having said all of that, I don't want to cut right to this line. I guess I could, but there's an easier way for me to, since I've already done the work to make sure that this edge is true and accurate, there's an easier way for me to match off of this template onto my tabletop. So I just want to get it close. I'll probably leave a good 1/4 inch material, maybe a little bit less, but I still want to leave some dimension there. The other thing I'll do is cut these ends now, probably to final dimension. That probably makes sense. And with any luck, where this dimension needs to end is going to intersect with this little miter, so I'll have something that looks like that. So hopefully that's where this all ends up. Okay, I'm going to take this to the bandsaw, I'll cut these things down, and then I'll tell you the last step before applying veneer. So I'll talk to you in a sec.